Okay. Well, I guess we're going live. I didn't really mean to go live right this second, but I guess I am now. All right. So in a discussion about the MAGA supporter that was a extremist right, right extremist. You have people that are radical left. We have people that are radical right. This guy happened to be a Trump supporter, but he was like took it to a whole new level of like crazy. And he was the one that killed that senator, or was she a senator? The one that got killed and her husband? They were lawmakers anyway. Whatever. Hoffman, I believe was her last name. Uh, I could be wrong, but it was talking to a person on a Facebook post, and I usually don't get into politics. James can attest to that. I don't do politics. God's in control. God raises up kings and he takes down kings. Everything that's happening is God's plan of the end times, period. But I still found myself in a discussion with this person about Trump. I told Just I told Justin, sorry, he's on my brain because I realized yesterday was the anniversary of my oldest son's death. But my husband came home from work yesterday and told me he'd help me put my pool up, so that kind of helped keep my mind off of it. So I didn't realize it at the time that that's what that was, even though I knew it was coming up because I was dreading June 17th. But at the time, I was in the process of having an argument with a child on this post about it. And this is before I even found out he was a MAGA supporter, but it wasn't because he was a Trump supporter that he did this. He just happened to be a radical right person, and he was just crazy. But anyway, and the whole discussion wasn't even about that. It was about Trump. And I said I support Trump, but I don't like the man. And there's a lot of things he's doing that I don't like trying to come up with a two-state solution for Israel, because I know what the Bible says about that. I said that right out the gate in the beginning of the conversation, and they weren't hearing that. They weren't hearing that. All they heard was like and Trump, right? And so they kept coming back at me as like I was one of these people that was out here trying to attack the protesters of for no kings and all this crap. And they weren't listening to anything I was saying, because they already had their mind made up, and they weren't going to listen to anything I had to say, this child. And finally, at one point, this child went to the whole new level of disrespect, and referred to Trump as my golden god. Now, this person knows me, has known me their whole life, uh, pretty much, and knows that I only serve one God, and that's Yahuwah, God, the Father in heaven. And so that was like a stab in my heart. That hurt a lot. So I've got this little bullet points that I want to go over. One, I don't idolize Trump. I'm not worshiping him. I can see both the good and the bad. That is called discernment. This child needs to learn the difference between political support and idolatry. I recognize God's sovereignty. Daniel 2:21 says he changes times and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. Whether it's Trump, Biden, Obama, or whoever, I brought that up too. Even Biden, they have all been put in office for such a time as this. But whether it's Trump, Biden, Obama, or whoever, God allows each one to fulfill his ultimate plan. And I even said that in the conversation, that they are just puppets, mere puppets, basically being used to do what needs to be done to usher in the end times, to usher in the Antichrist, and so forth. Nothing is outside of God's control, even the ugly parts. Everything that has happening is in God's control. We are literally watching Ezekiel 38, Gog and Magog, and seeing how things are aligning. That's the real news behind the news. Iran, Russia, Turkey, Syria, Israel. It's not random. The stage is being set exactly like God said it would. I understand where it's leading. The Antichrist won't show up looking evil. He'll bring peace, false peace, but he'll bring peace. He'll solve problems no one else could. I told this child this too. He will be the ultimate deceiver, even calling down fire from heaven, Revelation 13, verses 13 and 14. And I refuse to get sucked into political hysteria. I stay grounded in God's word. I don't ride the emotional roller coaster of every election cycle. That's wisdom. And honestly, if more believers had my mindset, we wouldn't be so divided right now. And that was told to me by someone else. I didn't say that about myself. What this child said was flat out disrespectful. Calling Trump my golden god was crossing the line and frankly shows how poisoned some people's minds have become because of media narratives. His anger isn't really at me, it's a spiritual blindness. That's why I need to keep praying for him and the strongholds. Praying for him and the strongholds will break. Praying for him and people like him. So the bottom line is I see the spiritual battlefield. I know the spiritual warfare that is going on because it says about it in the Bible. Is it Ephesians 6, verses 10 through 12? For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, James? You think? It's Ephesians 6, 10 through 12. Anyways, I know what's coming, and I also know who wins. So I have a end times wake up bullet list, or Mama knows what's coming edition. That's what it's also known as. One, God's control of all leaders. Daniel 2:21 says he removes kings and sets up kings. Trump, Biden, Obama, whoever, they're not in charge. God allows every leader to fulfill his plan for judgment, for mercy, for prophecy. Two, we're watching Ezekiel 38 forming right now. Russia is also known as Gog and Magog. Okay. Iran is Persia is modern day Iran. Turkey is modern day Gomer and Togarma here. There's actually more names that refer to Turkey, I believe. And they're aligning just like God said thousands of years ago. Current world events are equals prophecy unfolding in real time. What was written thousands of years ago in the Bible that would happen now is happening now, just as it was depicted by people that were alive thousands of years ago. Three, the Middle East is the key. Jerusalem will be the center stage. All eyes will be on Israel. The world will demand a peace agreement. A false peace, but it'll be a peace agreement. Watch for any two-state solution pushes. That's a major red flag. Oh, wait, Abrahamic Accords. Isn't that a two-state solution? Isn't that what Trump's pushing for? Is a two-state solution? Isn't that what, what's his son-in-law's name, Kushner? Is pushing for a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine, the Palestinians, right? Four, I mean, the world will get worse, not better. It's never going to get better, guys. I don't care who's in office, it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5, and I also shared this with that child. In the last days, perilous times will come. Let me just go ahead and read all of that to you. I don't know it by heart, but I do know what it says will be in men's hearts. And when it says man, it means mankind, like man, woman, everyone that was created by God. 2 Timothy. My glasses. Jeez. This would be a time that you could have brought that up for me, James. Could have helped me. 3, 1 through 5. Here we go. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves. Oh, I cannot see that because it's highlighted in pink. If it wasn't pink, I could read it. Uh, Covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemous, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those who are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. When it talks about having a form of godliness but denying the power within, those are the false prophets. They're teaching false doctrine, by the way, is what it's talking about there. So In 2 Timothy 3, it speaks of lawlessness, violence, deception, lovers of self, haters of truth. That's where we are. 5, the Antichrist will rise. He will appear to solve world crisis nobody else can fix. He'll bring temporary peace in the Middle East. He will perform signs and wonders, even call fire down from heaven. Revelation 13, verses 13 and 14. Shall we? We shall. Let's shall. Uh, and the and he, the false prophet, does great wonders and signs, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceives them who dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them who dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Calling fire down. You remember the story of Joseph? Any of you Bible scholars out there, or either any of you that paid attention in Bible school, Sunday school? The story of Joseph and his brothers? I'm sorry, it's not Joseph. What am I thinking? It's when Moses went to Pharaoh and said, God said, let my people go. And he took his staff and he threw it down and it turned into a snake, right? And then his sword, the Pharaoh sorcerers threw their rods down and they turned into snakes too. But God's snake ate the other snakes, right? But nevertheless, any sign that God, that God had Moses do, Satan matched it, right? Through sorcery. And just like the two witnesses after the rapture and the holy the restrainers removed and evil will be let loose full force. The two witnesses will be witnessing and testifying about God's truths in the end times during the tribulation period. They will be able to breathe fire out for against anyone that tries to harm them, right? They can call fire down as well. Well, everything that God does, Satan will counterfeit in the end times. So that's how he will be able to perform signs and wonders, even from heaven, even fire from heaven. He'll deceive many, but not the elect. Matthew 24:24 even says, though if it were possible, though if it were possible, even the elect would be deceived, if it were possible. Matthew 24:24. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets. The Antichrist and the false prophet refers to Revelation chapter 13, and shall show great signs and wonders, inasmuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive. If it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. And they'll attempt to deceive Israel. Some will fall for it. Some will think that the Antichrist is their Messiah that they thought they had been waiting for because they rejected Jesus. 6, political arguments are a distraction. The real war is spiritual. Ephesians 6:12 says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Satan wants division and hatred. Don't take the bait. Hey! Be mean to that kitten. Sorry. 7, there's only one God. One God, child. One Yahuwah. Yahuwah. The Father in heaven. Adonai. Elohim. However you want to call him. Through his son, Yahusha. Jesus. However you want to call him. Yahuwah. Yahusha. Yeshua. However you want to pronounce it. Jesus. No political party saves us. No human leader saves us. Only Christ saves us. There's only one way to the Father, and that is through Jesus Christ. End of story, period. John 14:6. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father but through me. And that's the end of the sentence, period. Keep your eyes on Israel in the Middle East. Luke 21:28 says, when you see these things begin to come to pass, look up, lift up your eyes, for your redemption draws near. In fact, he's even at the door knocking now. The clock is ticking. The birth pains are increasing. Be ready spiritually, not stockpiling ammo, not arguing politics. Be right with God. Be sober. Be vigilant and be watchful. When the world looks at chaos, I see prophecy. When the world panics, I have peace because I know the end of the story. Jesus wins. And then the famous words of Jan Markell, things are not falling apart, they're falling into place.